Research America's Chair Emeritus and my dear friend, John Edward Porter, often says, you can change the image of things to come, but you can't do it sitting on your hands. The science community should reach out to Congress and build bridges. Sage advice from someone who well knows the power of advocacy for research. Throughout his distinguished career in public service, John Porter has always understood the remarkable ways in which research can improve health, strengthen our economy, and solidify our nation's global leadership in science and innovation. So why medical research? John's interest in research began in the 1950s, when Jonas Salk and his associates developed and tested the polio vaccine. This was especially meaningful to John, since his father, a trial judge for 40 years, had contracted the disease before turning 2 years old. John, who grew up in Evanston, Illinois, graduated 14th in his class from one of America's premier high schools. He began college at MIT, but transferred to Northwestern University, studying pre-law along with political science. He was president of his fraternity, president of the Intra-Fraternity Council, and member of the student governing board. He received his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Northwestern, and 40 years later, an honorary degree. John received his law degree from the University of Michigan Law School with distinction, and was a member of the Michigan Law Review. He served in the U.S. Army Reserves for 6 years. Appointed by the Eisenhower administration, he was an honor law graduate attorney with the U.S. Department of Justice, serving in the Kennedy administration. John entered politics in 1972, serving in the Illinois General Assembly, representing the 1st District. In 1978, he ran against the incumbent Democrat Abner Mitkva for the congressional seat in Illinois' 10th District, but lost by 650 votes out of more than 200,000 cast. He was determined to run a positive campaign, declining to run radio ads that demeaned the incumbent. The following year, John won a special election for the same seat when Mitkva was appointed to the federal bench. And John went on to serve for more than 2 decades in the U.S. House of Representatives. A lifelong Republican, he cultivated strong relationships with presidents of both parties and worked across the aisle in his determination to advance our nation's medical and health research enterprise. As chairman of the Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services and Education, John demonstrated his unflagging support for research and the National Institutes of Health. He earned the respect and admiration of patient groups, scientists, industry leaders, and every NIH director, including Drs. Harold Varmus, Elias Zerhouni, and Francis Collins. Dr. Varmus said that John immersed himself in the detailed working of our agency while not losing sight of the big picture, namely the scientific mission to make discoveries and to apply our science to improvements in human health. In the 1990s, NIH and other federal health agencies were at risk for major budget cuts. John was the first lawmaker to call for the doubling of the NIH budget over 5 years. Through his passion and commitment, he set out to make the goal of doubling the NIH budget a reality. John made many visits to the NIH campus, inviting along his congressional colleagues, and he brought Nobel laureates and business leaders to Capitol Hill for meetings with congressional leaders to make the case for research. And it worked. Thanks to his vision, in partnership with other champions for NIH in the House and the Senate, and bolstered by Advocacy, by Research America and many other organizations, the NIH budget was doubled over 5 years. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, Al Hunt hailed the budget increase as the most significant achievement of Congress during that period. The late Congressman Paul Rogers said at the time that it would have been very difficult without John Porter. He has been the main person in the effort to double the NIH budget. While in Congress, John had an outstanding human rights record. He was founder and co-chairman of the Congressional Human Rights Caucus, a voluntary association of more than 250 members of Congress working to identify, monitor, and end human rights violations worldwide. He co-authored the legislation creating Radio Free Asia and served as chair of the Global Legislators Organized for a Balanced Environment, Globe USA. For his extraordinary leadership in advancing research and innovation, John has received countless awards. Among them are the Mary Woodard Lasker Award for Public Service, which noted that John Porter's enlightened approach to the need for America's long-term investment in fundamental biomedical research has set a superb standard for all elected officials. He received the National Academy of Sciences Public Welfare Medal in 2014, the Academy's most prestigious award. John was cited as a leading champion of American science and medicine. His ability to garner support for research has enabled countless advances that otherwise might not have been possible. He also received the Paul G. Rogers Award for Public Service from the Friends of the National Library of Medicine, and he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters degree from the Morehouse School of Medicine, and many, many more. After more than 2 decades of distinguished public service, John left Congress and continued his efforts to make research for health a higher national priority in the private and voluntary sectors. The late Congressman Paul Rogers and Bob Michael asked John to join them in practice at the law firm then named Hogan and Hartson, representing universities, including his alma mater Northwestern, research institutions, hospitals, and nonprofits. He continues as senior advisor for the firm that is now named Hogan Lovells. In 2001, at the urging of Chair Paul Rogers, John joined Research America's board, succeeding Rogers as chair himself in 2005. He propelled the Alliance's mission forward by igniting a passion for research advocacy among scientists, patient advocates, industry partners, and the academic community alike. His deep commitment to convincing policymakers that medical research must be funded at the level of scientific opportunity was unmatched as he rallied support from congressional leaders, philanthropists including Michael Bloomberg, journalists Al Hunt, Mike Wallace, George Stephanopoulos, and Sam Donaldson, and many other supporters from all sectors. John has not only served as a trusted advisor for the Research America Alliance and our members, he has inspired advocates, scientists, and science enthusiasts nationwide through his rousing speeches and compelling editorials. His unwavering support for research led to significant recognition on the NIH campus. Following in the footsteps of other prominent congressional advocates for research, one of the largest neuroscience buildings in the world is named for him. The John Edward Porter Neuroscience Research Center, a state-of-the-art facility at the NIH, unites neuroscience research from across institutes and centers and was officially dedicated in 2014. NIH Director Francis Collins said at the dedication ceremony, "The legacy of John Porter's leadership can be seen in this very building, in the new hope for patients across the country and around the world." John is tremendously dedicated to his family and his friends. His love for family is evident in the joy of spending time with his wonderful wife Amy, his children, and grandchildren. And his friends treasure him. Many of you know that he's a terrific golfer, but did you know he has a sweet tooth? He requires oatmeal raisin cookies at every meeting. To this day, John Porter's legacy as a champion for research is recognized worldwide, as leaders like Vice President Joe Biden and Governor Mike Castle can well attest. It wasn't just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. John's achievements were the result of his dedicated leadership, hard work, integrity, and deep commitment to research. On behalf of Research America, we salute and thank you, John Edward Porter, for your service and love for family, friends, science, and country.